So welcome everyone. My name is Alfréd Szilágyi from Hungary, and this session would be about commercial farming in permaculture, which is it might be a bit controversial, but yeah, that's what I'm doing research on. So I thought to show you some of my own results and also a little bit of the picture what's going on internationally nowadays. So. But I don't want to make a very official presentation, so my plan is that I have 1 hour and half an hour, hopefully like half an hour would be like presentation, and then it would be really nice to have discussion, because I think that's really crucial for permaculture, for the movement, because we are always talking about food sovereignty, self-sufficiency, and a lot of things like that. And a lot of people in the movement, they are doing it in the practical life, in their own gardens, in their own kitchens and their own homesteads. But if we are about scaling, and that was like yesterday lecture, we are about scaling up, then we cannot just take away the big global systems and how we feed the people like in big quantities. And if we are talking about that, then the question is, how can permaculture kind of penetrate the actual conventional big system, and how we can transform agriculture. And fortunately, we are not on our own. There are multiple parallel movements and concepts, and that was one of my aims, to a little bit highlight like what other alternatives are there, and etc. And at the end, I would like to just show you our own farm, where I'm coming from, which is a small-scale horticultural community farm. So at the beginning, I wanted to show you like one definition from our elder, Béla Bai. Unfortunately, he is not anymore with us, but in Hungary he is the longest-standing permaculturist, and his definition of permaculture farming was kind of this. Of course, here it reflects the general definition or older definition of permaculture. So, like, we have the elements all connected in a coherent ecological system, and that we have a mutually beneficial network of connections. So interrelations, connections is in the heart of permaculture, and also in the heart of permaculture farming. And he said that we are trying to use species that are useful for the humans, and in this way to reduce all the negative effects of farming. And then a newer version, kind of, that's from French people, French academics. They said that, here is also, I just wanted to highlight, so not reading all of it, but the main focus is on polycultures, all kinds of different polyculture types, and on landscape, that's very important, soil. We had a very nice lecture yesterday about soil, and perennials. That was their kind of, it's not a definition, but a characterization of how permaculture farming should look like. And the most comprehensive, sorry, that's not very good quality, but the most comprehensive conceptualization of what permaculture farming is, that's from Fibrich, Imo Fibrich. He's a German guy, and they set up a system. So in Germany, there was an initiative from a big farm to set up a permaculture label for products. That was from the Real and the Lehmann Natur, and he was working with them as a consultant, and he with other colleagues, they set up this kind of graph and system of describing what should be permaculture farming in the reality or in the practice, and they call it 111. So like one prerequisite, it should be certified organic. So that's the very base, organic farming, and that there's 11 fields of actions where it differs from the let's say average or conventional organic farming. So where we do more than a simple organic farm. And then these were so the main three domain is cultivation, the water and soil. And unfortunately it's not so readable, but like composting, tillage, reducing tillage, that we talked a lot about yesterday in presentation. But so there is a system of kind of describing like what is it in the practice, and he really like or they really like made a huge review of the literature, whether it's grey literature or academic literature, like what is actually now, what can we find, like what is in the practice. So although there's not an official definition nor yet like a certification of what is permaculture farming, but there are already like international efforts, academic and also like expert efforts, like to describe somehow how permaculture fits into the wider sustainable farming movements. And also we have now like demonstration farms, or as we call now with newer words like lighthouse project. This is my own list of farms, but definitely there are multiple of them, and I'm sure that in the next session we will hear about also like what you have here in Slovakia and in the Czech Republic. But these are somewhat, at least the first few ones, those ones which are really frequently cited as one of the best examples how permaculture can be applied in a practical commercial setting, from Austria, France, Sweden, UK, and we have some in Hungary. You can meet also Valahatanya farmer Balázs here. He's here. So yeah. And then the next slide. This is my kind of own edition. So you can this graph is about the different initiatives, concepts, movements, like in sustainable agriculture, and there are two important models behind. One is about agroecological transition. Probably most of you heard about agroecology, and there is a concept about transition. So we say in agroecology that it's not possible that from one day to the other everything's gonna change, and from a conventional system like global system we're gonna shift on one day to a permaculture, agroecological, whatever, like very sustainable system. That's not gonna happen in one day. It's a transition. And why this is very good, this concept, because everyone can kind of locate themselves where they are as an individual farm and where they want to go. And it's an inclusive model, not an exclusive, like, okay, you are not good enough to be agroecologist or permaculturist, you are not good enough to be regenerative or whatever, but it says that we are in a transition, all of us, we are somewhere here, and yeah, it might be that you are still in the status quo position, a very conventional farm, but if you are in the mindset you are already started this transition, then there is a way to how to get through all these steps to get to a much more diverse and sustainable system. And these steps are, the first is eco-efficiency, which says that they want to reduce all the inputs, and that's how it has a lot of ecological benefits. But this is still like, with the kind of conventional mindset, like how we can make more profit with reducing inputs, like precision agriculture and things like that. Then we have the input substitution, when we are trying to substitute the artificial inputs with something natural. Now we have loads of examples, fortunately, in organic farming, even for supplying nutrients, but also for pesticides, like how we can substitute it with biological measures or inputs. And they say, I think this is the very, very critical step. This is the system redesign. So for us, for permaculture, designing is something that that's always in the head. But the question is how farmers can do a system redesign. And they say that kind of naturally comes from the process that once they are starting to substitute to organic, to natural substances, then they see somehow how ecologically the farm can work, and then they start to think about how they can redesign the system so that it operates with the, let's say, ecosystem services, so more with nature. And once this is done, then comes the last one, which is an ideal future position. That's the agroecological landscape and food systems. And the other model that's from Hungary, from an older academics. He had a model like modeling the different alternatives based on the energy input. So here is the artificial energy input and the natural energy input, and I located the different initiatives and concepts on this graph. This is somehow my own perception, so we can argue about it, but so organic, I think, is somewhere between input substitution and system redesign, and I believe, and I'm trying also to make research on it to show that permaculture is somewhat at the more sustainable end, and yeah, like I was locating the different concepts based on what is the believed, the perceived end result of that concept. And based on that, I think that agroecology and permaculture is kind of the most promising ones. And natural farming, which is in India. Yep. So yeah, I think that the most promising alternatives today, which are all interconnected, and normally when you go to a farming conference, you meet a lot of people who are at least one, but normally they are into more kind of concepts. One is the regenerative movement, and I want to highlight there is a subsection, regenerative organic movement, holistic management. We have the agroecology, as I said, this zero budget natural farming. That's very similar to all these, but it has been landed or started in India. And we have the bio-intensive movement. That's rather for horticulture. That's what I'm into. And nowadays we have also in the European context this so-called nature-based solutions. So it's not a farming time, but we are talking quite a lot about on those solutions. But the thing is, here in Europe, that we have a long history of greenwashing, and there is always a risk that corporate abuse happens with the principles of all these initiatives. So I think that's why it's good that permaculture is not yet certified, or so it's always a question whether it's good. If we are scaling up, then we definitely have to take care of these problems. And on the other hand, the practical relevance. So if you go to the practice, to farmers, to talk with farmers, for them it's not a must that they have to frame it like whether I'm regenerative or permaculturist or agroecologist. For them it's not always matters. It's what matters for them, that they can survive, and what practices they can do on the ground, on the field. So sometimes I have the feeling that this is rather for the academic people and for people in NGOs and whatever, that we are talking a lot about which are these and whether this is conceptually differs or not. But what really matters, that we can give tools for the farmers so that they can go through this transition that I showed you. And I wanted to highlight here, there is an IPES report, the smoke and mirrors. This is a bit about the critical review of these competing different alternatives. So I recommend to read it. And now I just wanted to show you, like, internationally what happens now in the topic. So 10 years ago, I would have said that we don't have really a lot of research on permaculture, at least natural scientific research, but fortunately in the last 10 years it started. Like 10 years ago there were more like social scientific research, and now we have crude, let's say, natural scientific findings as well. And there are kind of workshops or group of scientists who are working on it, not just Europe. So in the USA, Ferguson was the first who started. Ralph Ferguson, who started to make research about the American, so the USA permaculture movement and farming. And this article of his that was really about farming. Like characterization of the US permaculture farms. Then we have Fibrich, that I showed you the graphic, the 111. And now there is other group of scientists in Germany. They have very nice articles in the Nature. This is one of the highest ranked natural scientific journal globally, and they have just published some papers in it. I will show you. And we are, with the Hungarian team in the association, we have also connections to academia, and we have a working group on research. Then there is a woman, maybe you might know, who is from Czech. Unfortunately, I never met him, but I get to know her through the Visegrad projects that we have had like 10 years ago, and she is also doing her PhD on ecosystem services in permaculture, which would hopefully be ready in 1-2 years maximum, as she told me. And then we have the French group in the INRA, who are working closely with the farm Le Bécoulin farm, which is a very small-scale permaculture farm, but they are trying to put figures and data on that farm, and based on that also to make other research in France about permaculture. And I know a little bit, but just because I got always the ask for reviewing articles nowadays, and that there are some papers coming from Africa, China, and India. So there is also some kind of scientific research there on permaculture. And these are just papers. So these are. This was one from the German group. As you say, like crop productivity of Central European permaculture is within the range of organic and conventional agriculture. So they are doing something similar that what I've done during my PhD research, like comparing organic, conventional, and permaculture farming. And they have also like crude data about carbon, soil, and biodiversity. These are the older ones. These are more conceptual. This is from Fibrich. He worked really a lot about permaculture in commercial farming, and that was from the French group, like an organic market garden without motorization. So, yeah. And now my research, just a little bit some highlights. My PhD research. So I was doing it for like 6 years in Hungary, and my main topic was to compare horticulture enterprises, conventional, organic, and permaculture horticulture enterprises. So these were all like small scale, so less than 2 hectares, and my aim was to really find those sites which are only differing in kind of thinking and the concept they are doing there. So you can see on the pictures that the layout is very different, but in size, it was all like small scale and very diverse production. But the concept was different behind. These were in Hungary near Budapest. So all in all, 15 sites. So 5 from all types. And I did quite a lot of like ecological measurements on the ground, because my initial aims conceptually was that so I'm coming from the sustainability assessment kind of world or academia, and I integrated it with ecosystem services, the concept, because that was my on the university context where I could start the PhD. And my concept was that if I go out on the practice on the ground and I measure different things related to soil, to biodiversity, to water or whatever, then I can kind of interpret it also on the level of sustainability and also on the level of ecosystem services. And so there was 1 year of measurements in 2020, and there are some. I brought some like kind of most spectacular results. So one was the humus content of the soil. So that's the soil organic matter. So yesterday we heard quite a lot about the relevance and the importance of humus content in the soil, and here the A and the B stands for if there is a significant difference, so statistically proven significant difference between the different farm types. And as you can see, as for the humus, permaculture and organic farms, they were different. They were significantly different from the conventional farms. So there were significantly less humus content in the soil of conventional horticultures. And then earthworms, we also heard quite a lot about them. That was from the September sampling, and so the abundance of earthworms were significantly higher in permaculture compared to the other two, while the number of species, so the different earthworm species, was also significantly higher in permaculture compared to the organic farms. The conventional here was somewhat in between. And we also measured the soil surface fauna, so the different group of animals. And just some highlights here, like in permaculture, the collembola, so the springtails, they were significantly higher in permaculture compared to conventional ones. That was true also for the spiders, while the diplopoda, they were significantly higher in permaculture compared to the organic farms. And the Hymenoptera, these were mostly ants and things like that, they were significantly lower in organic farming compared to the other two. And lastly, the pollinators, that was from the August sampling. The abundance of all pollinators, that was significantly higher in permaculture compared to the conventional ones, and also the bee family, the Apidae bees, they were also significantly higher in permaculture. Yep. So that was the summing kind of graphics of my research about ecosystem services. I didn't want to go to details, but what I did is like I had all these ecological measurements on the ground, but I also made interviews with the farmers, mostly to kind of understand the sustainability picture and context of the farms. But that was also about the practices and also how they look at farming. And I made a kind of complex assessment, integrating indicators from the measurements, but also from the interviews, to assess the different ecosystem services. And my final kind of result was that I assessed decomposition, climate regulation, pest control, pollination, as ecosystem services, and also biodiversity. And in all cases, permaculture outperformed the organic and the conventional sites. So although if I go back to the graphs, you can see that it's not always black and white, but that was my kind of hypothesis from the beginning when I started doing research during my bachelor and etc. So of course, as permaculturists, we think that permaculture outperforms conventional systems, but I wanted to make figures, wanted to make numbers, wanted to see, wanted to measure, and that's what I managed to do. So now it's kind of a scientifically proven fact, at least in this context. So in Hungary, in horticulture context, in small-scale horticulture enterprises, that was true at that time. That's also important, that for 1 year. And that was the conclusions from the sustainability assessment, kind of, so from the interviews. So what I found, this is based on the SAFA guidelines. So the FAO, they created a big framework of how to assess sustainability, and they had 4 dimensions: the good governance, and then environmental, economic, and social pillars. And how I summarized it, that in permaculture we have a holistic approach, ideals, and normally alternative operating models. So whether it is marketing, whether it is the how they do farming, they have like kind of alternative models compared to the conventional farms. For the organics, I found that they have a professional background, they have very conscious management and a complex operating model. By the conventional farms, they have normally outdated technology, minimal innovation, and but they have an experience spanning through generations. So that's on one side a positive. As for environmental side, there is a very high focus on biodiversity. They try to minimize soil disturbance and reducing the dependence on external inputs. In case of the organics, they organic farmers, they have really a focus on saying that the principle of non-pollution but there is a high involvement of external inputs, even though if it's organic. And in case of conventional, of course, they use the fertilizers, pesticides, and there is also a dependency on external inputs. As for economic resilience, and that's a very interesting topic. In permaculture, they still, what I saw, that economic considerations that subordinate to principles. So it's not the main focus to be profitable. While in case of organic farms, they seem to be more resilient, prosperous, and they had an economies of scale. So at least at that scale, so in small-scale farming, they were quite strong economically. And while in case of conventional farms, they were kind of limited in market position, and I found a kind of vulnerability. But all in all, I think that the organic farms were strongest in the economic resilience. And in case of social integrity, in permaculture, of course, and that was visible with the farmers, there was really a strong focus on positive social impacts, while in organic farming, there was a strong focus on knowledge transfer, and they had more employees, so there was more focus on how to treat employees. While in case of conventional farms, that was very minimal. I mean, the social integrity and all in all, anything like which is external to the farm, socially, that was very spontaneous or minimal, and unfortunately a lack of cooperation. Yeah, so that was my PhD study, and all the studies I've done before all together. So these were the main highlights, maybe. One is that. What I just said, that in permaculture farming, it was really visible with the farmers that it's a lifestyle for them, and it's not just about making profit and be economic, but also the social and ecological aspects were as important. So kind of balancing, kind of equal importance, and very often a very strong community base. So whether it is for the marketings like CSA farms, etc., whether it's for the ownership or whether for the operation, but there is often a community base behind. Biodiversity, that was, if I wouldn't have measured it, just go out, you can really feel the difference in case of biodiversity. And they didn't use synthetic fertilizer nor pesticides, whether they were certified organic or not. they have a focus and kind of trend to exclude the external inputs, so integrated farming and composting through these measures, and normally self-sufficiency and food sovereignty, but that this self-sufficiency is really in mind. So when they are talking about like whether it's profitable or not, they always take into consideration the self-sufficiency. I mean, the permaculture farms, the self-sufficiency aspect. They often use land races and underutilized or exotic crops and making experiments, etc. And often we find elements of permaculture design. So they don't do such a complex designs as we do as permaculture designers, but they have elements of those. And as I said, they always look at farming as a lifestyle, not just as a business operation or whatever. And what else is the persons, the farmers themselves, they are very often first generation young intellectuals who move to the countryside. So not like for generations already farming. Yeah, and now a little bit about highlights about why scientific research is important in my view, and what it can help for the permaculture movement. So when I first did my thesis during the bachelor, and I crossed I read the literature, there was one very good article saying that permies just don't do numbers. So we believe in a lot of things. We have myths, we have beliefs, we have principles, but there's no crude numbers behind whether it is really working in the practice or not. And as I told you and I showed you, now we have a bit more developed on that side. So from the beginning, my consideration was to kind of break this sentence. So now we have some numbers. And why is it important? Because we are a little bit always, how someone says in the discussion yesterday said that we are in a bubble. Yeah, often permaculturists, we are kind of in a little bit isolated bubble, but we have to take into consideration that there is a wider society, and if we are talking about that and we want a system change, then we need to take care about decision making, policies, etc. And there, where it comes that numbers and scientific research is very relevant and important. The other thing is the empowerment of practitioners, because and about the transition. So if a farmer is at some step and he needs some more facts and more numbers and inspiration and how to convince them, then comes scientific research as kind of useful tool. And also those who are already doing it, so that they understand and they see that, it's not just what I think and what I believe, but there is a scientific research showing that there are more earthworms in permaculture farms. And myth and knowledge, we have a lot of beliefs, but I think that our task, we have a load of tasks, of course, but one is that we have to kind of prove it and make it to a practical knowledge. And the other good thing, because a lot of people in the permaculture movement, they are critical about scientific research. I can completely understand it. But the good news is that nowadays, in academia, there is also a strong shift from the, let's say, conventional academic tools and methodologies. So now, just as my research was, there are very good examples of holistic, interdisciplinary and participatory research, where it's not just about a scientific person goes out and they say, this is what you have to do, I measure it, and then I wrote a paper and then that's it. But it's rather about a much more involving process with participatory methods, and there is a very good combination of natural and social scientific methods. So now we have much more tools, and this is much more accepted in the academic world now to make such a complex research. So that's possible to somehow, because in the 20 years ago, the problem was that we didn't have very good scientific methods how to grasp such a complex thing as permaculture. But now we have progress on that. Yeah, well, the education, that's for sure. And here comes the academic education. So on universities, there was some talking about that related to agroforestry. Unfortunately, permaculture is much more into academic education, not just in Hungary, but I suppose it in all countries. And finally, you know, science is also but kind of you can enjoy it, you can make it fun, and you can also, how to say, it's a good play. It can be a good play. So now we have very good citizen science tools, as Vitka showed us yesterday with the underwear. So we don't have to always consider it as a very, very high academic thing, like, okay, numbers, figures, etc. But it's rather about testing, experimenting, and in this way improving and innovating. And this is where comes permaculture design, you know, and we have so when we make a good design, then there are always feedbacks and loops, and that's where comes science and this process of testing and innovation. So I think these are all different aspects how scientific research can support permaculture movement, and vice versa. So I always have, so also what I did in the practice, like in the project, in the research project, what I saw that normally farmers are very isolated. So they are doing themselves in their everyday life, and they don't really have time to network, to connect to people. And permaculture, but that's true also for the academic people often, that they are in a very, very scattered position and limited position in their academic position. And as a permaculture movement, I think what we have to do is kind of connecting all these people together. And because for the people in science, they also often they need help, you know, like where they can make tests, where they can make research. And I think as a movement, we have to. It's our task, everyone's task, to have these connections. And now I was talking as a since as a scientist, now I was talking as a kind of NGO people, and now I'm going to talk a little bit about as a farmer. So just some highlights from our farm. This is Pallagvölgyi Organic Garden. So anytime you cross Hungary, you're welcome to visit. So we started it in 21. That was our first season. It's a CSA farm, and we have some design between. We had two main focus. One, agronomic design, like how we're gonna do farming, and the other thing was the enterprise, the functioning, the people side, like how we want to operate. And that was really like community based. So there are 4 people who we established the farm, and there is a common responsibility and kind of level of decision making. And we have a kind of holistic approach to farming. So I always say that basically a farmer, if he's really or she is really good of like ecologically how they want to perceive farming, then it's basically it's an ecosystem management. It's not farming. It's not like the traditional way of thinking, like I have the soil, I put the things in, and I take out the result, the yield. But it's rather an ecosystem management, like how I manage ecosystem so that I have the result, the yield from it. Of course, we have a strong base of ethics, but I think I don't have to elaborate that here. But what is important in our case is the social integration. So we work very closely with the local government and also with the local community, but also with the national NGO network, so with the Permaculture Association, but also with agroecology network, etc. And ecological functions are quite important in our case, mostly the soil, but also biodiversity. So we are a bird-friendly demonstration site, and also we have strong focus on agrobiodiversity. And related to practices, we have bio-intensive beds, kind of regenerative soil management. We have some deep mulch parcels. We have also animals, a flock of 250 chicken, and yeah. I forgot to translate, sorry. This is like territorial integrity, like how and how we position in the landscape. That's also, even though we are small, but we are in the middle of the village, so we have to also to take care of that. This is one layout, sorry, like how the farm is, like the different parcels, and yeah, just to show you that we have maps like that. And what is important, that we had a community project, like a permaculture design project, that was 2 years ago. So here is the horticultural farm itself, and then to the next land we made a common, like a community permaculture design process that was for like three months, and we also started to do the implementation. So this is the farm itself. Which is hopefully still there. I'm here, but now we have a bigger tunnel as well. And here is the. So this is just started like 2 years ago. The implementation of it's going to be a multifunctional forest garden. But what is special, that it's really like for the local people, and together with the local government, we made the design. And we have swales and fruit trees already planted, and chicken and goats and etc. And yeah, there's still time for questions. So yeah, thank you for your attention.
One more one.
Hello. I'm not sure it's working. Is it? Can you hear me?
No,
okay.
It's okay.
Okay. I would love to thank you, first of all, for your work. So I can remember in 2016 when we were talking about the absence of academic research on the topic, and I'm really glad that she did it and she finished it. And I would like to ask you where we can find it to use it for our purposes. That's my first question.
Yeah, so
results.
I have some papers already published, but that's not about the main results. That's rather about the sub-results, like for earthworms and etc. But in Hungary, so everyone who holds a PhD, their thesis is openly available, and there is an English summary of it. It's like 30 pages, so I'm happy to share the link for that, and you can download it. And yeah, it contains the main results and methodological description, etc.
Yeah, we would love to, and please keep in touch to if it's going to be published. We would like to use these materials one
The German
day.
guys already did it, fortunately, and so yeah, next time. Yeah, they were the first, fortunately. So yeah, I'm planning to do some papers.
And my other question is rather like personal. How can you cope? You were talking about these bubbles, you know, about the scientific, academic bubble, the bubble of agriculturals and growers. How can you cope now? Like, there's a lot of work, I guess, on your farm. How can you implant that into your life to not get mad, you know?
Yeah, a bit of...
Thank you.
What is schizophrenia, az hogy van? Angolul. Yeah, you know, I always say that for me, one of the most core permaculture principles is integrate rather than segregate. So this is how I can survive. Like, I always trying to connect everything, and this is how I can do it. So for example, about the PhD research, for me it was very, very good because I went to a lot of farms, you know, making interviews, doing the research, and in the meantime I saw so much examples, good examples, and then I could feed this into the process when we set up our farms. So kind of it's all interconnected, and now we are kind of a research demonstration site as well. So now I can make some research on my own farm, which is always easier than going around. So for me, that's the solution. Always integrate and always trying to connect. So what I'm doing in the MAPER, in the association, that is somehow connected to the practical life and also to the research side. So yeah, kind of flowing like this, and then yeah.
And how many of you are in charge on your farm? How many of you are in charge of your farm?
We established like 4 people, 2 girls, 2 boys, and it was the initial aim not to be couples, because we know a lot of family farms, which is very nice, very good, but not our cup of tea, because you know all the stress. Because this kind of farming, even though it seems like small scale, very nice, whatever, but it comes with a lot of stress. If you look at the business aspects, you have to take care of a lot of customers, etc., as we call them, members. And we wanted to share this. We wanted that it's not open to one couple or one person, but it's divided between more people and more families in the background. And that's now is our 5th season, and I think that it's somehow it's already not in the testing phase. We are somehow more so it's more based, or how to say, more jobban ki van próbálva, vagy hogy mondjam, már nem kísérletezünk.
Tested well.
Yeah, it's already kind of a good example, even though we always try to innovate. But otherwise, above that, there are layers. So there are us 4 as managers, and there are some people who are working always with us, like all the year round, and there are some people who are coming, 2 hours per week or whatever they want. And if I sum it up all in all, so we have like 5,500 square meters of production site, and that gives, and together with the chicken, the 250 chicken, that sum up as like 5 person as a total, as a full-time job, yeah.
And do you have economical stability?
Yes.
Now, do you feel?
Yeah, now we kind of, this is the year when I think we are already kind of reached what I would say that economically viable, because when we started it, we had a set of kind of what kind of earning we would like from the garden, and we reached that last year. But on those 3 years, there was 4 years, there was more than 30% of elértéktelenedés a pénznek, inflation in Hungary. So by the time we reach that dreamed earning, by the time that money, it doesn't worth that much. So now we had some redesign, and now we are kind of okay. I think what we earn now is okay. And we don't want profit, so that's important, that there's not someone behind who were putting money into it and we have to pay back or whatever. There's no loans. So yeah, that's important, that we have to only kind of produce our living, the wages, and there's no need for profit.
Okay, I have one question. I'm starting a permaculture farm, so I'm seeking for some specific inspiration. If you have something at your farm which works, like some system or specific strategy, I don't know, something really specific which could inspire us, maybe?
For me, community, and it's not just saying like community, like okay, let's work with others. But you need a strong base. You need to find the right people. But for me, I think that's where we are special, and that's what is the best example in our case. That really like sharing the responsibilities, and it's not about fun. So in our case, it was also like we started. We already knew each other somewhat, so it wasn't like completely unknown people to each other. But when we started it, we had kind of a dreaming circle, and we also kind of made some designs, like we described like who is good in what and whatever. And once the first season went down, we went back and we said, okay, who said what and whether it was true or not, or how we can improve our work together, etc. So that was a very strong circle after it. So it wasn't just saying, oh, you were very nice, let's go, whatever, but it was really an honest kind of sharing. But after, it's a little bit like couples, like after 2-3 years, that if you can stick together and work together, then now it's much more relaxed, because all of us have small kids, so now a discussion like that goes like a lot of small kids around and a beer and whatever, and but the initial phase was quite strong, and that's what I really recommend. Not do it on your own, because it's very hard. But if we practically, for us, these bio-intensive farming practices, that was good. And well, I can say a lot of things like buy a GP1 sowing machine, because it's worth really. So we bought it just this spring, and it really matters a lot. This bio-intensive sowing machine, it's very specific. It's a Korean sowing machine, and it's really save uptime. It's magical.
What's the name?
It's a GP1. I can look for you. GP1 sowing machine. But if you type like market gardening, then you will find it, and it costs quite a lot considered to a normal type of sowing machine, but it's really worth it.
May I ask, what is your estimation? What is the smallest size of the farm in square meters that could be profitable?
Mm-hmm. We have very good examples now in Hungary in this market gardening, bio-intensive farming world. So we are kind of normal size with this half hectare. So most of the farms are like 6,000 square meters or something like that. At least what is operating as beds for the production. But there are some good examples with smaller ones. So, for example, near us there is a small farm. They have I think 2,500 square meters. They have only 2 tunnels, small tunnels, and they do a miraculous work, because they really focus on it, and they much more intensive in a good sense, that they can really take care of all the plants. So so I think that's for 2 people. So from a few and that's vegetable production. Also with the chicken, just to say, like this 150 chicken in Hungary, in the Hungarian context, this can sustain 1 person.
As you worked with many farmers, let's say, were they themselves interested in your results, like in the comparison and taking feedback what they could improve on their farms?
Kind of. I was not strong enough on that, but I tried at least. That means that when the selection was done, that was mainly done through when we are in the next session, we are going to talk about the map. And that time, the permaculture farms, they were part of the map. So that was kind of but to be honest, I was behind the map as well. So that was a bit like, kind of own listing. And that's a good question. I mean, between the organic and permaculture farms, if you go to a practice, then there is a kind of, it's not easy to separate. Because they are overlapping. So there are some farms in my sites which were organic, so I put them in the organic, but they really did a lot. So for the ecological impacts as well, and they really have a strong focus in it. And on the other hand, I had also some one permaculture site which was really strong also economically, and they were such a scale as the organic farms, or so intensive. So and for me now, it's interesting, like after 5 years of farming, for me, permaculture is not really about practices. It's not really about how I'm doing the beds or whether I'm doing mulching or whatever. It's much more complex. It's rather about how we integrate to the actual context, like the conventional context, rather that's farming, rather that's the marketing. So how we can survive, how we can thrive, and how we can improve, and how we can develop in a system like in the global system that we have. So because you cannot you cannot just take away that finally you are always competing either with conventional stuff in the shop or either with let's say I call conventional organic farms, which are like, very big organic farms who are working with organic things, but still with the similar mindset as the conventional ones. It's like huge, greenhouses in Spain and whatever, and you are competing a little bit with them. So, and this is what for me permaculture is, like how you can integrate socially so that you can thrive in this context.
Yeah, and one more question, maybe a bit more generic. When talking about farming from the point of the farmers and thinking about surviving, did you or do you know any other research attempting to compare yields between permaculture farms, ecological farms, and conventional farms?
Yeah, I did not do that, but this article, they did it. Sorry, I'm going back. So the crop productivity. So there are people who are looking at it. And also the French guys, they were looking at it. So yeah, there are some figures which are promising. But yeah, I don't want to take out from here that at least in the French case, they're a really nice farm, but the site that they had the research on, that's a biointensive part of the farm. So in our case as well, so these horticulture farms normally they are using the biointensive methods, but well, it depends how you apply it, because you can do biointensive farming in a way that you only produce 5 types of salads for restaurants, and then nothing else. You take care of the soil, but it's still not. I think it's not good so much. And you can also do it biointensive farming in a much more complex way.
Thank you. My question relates to your business model and your opinion, and maybe what you suggest to young people who are starting this kind of enterprise, so to say. My question is, how do you, what's your income model? For example, do you put emphasis also on training activities, which is a different kind of income? And what's your opinion about this on the long run, to diversifying the income structure? Not only getting money from the production, but also, I don't know, maybe completely different kind of income sources which relate to your, I don't know, integrative way of thinking.
Yeah, so answer that. Already from the beginning, we had in mind that from 4 of us, at least two of us is like, we don't want to do only farming, so research and education and things like that, that also kind of interesting for us. So from the beginning we have ideas and dreams and so that, okay, we do farming, and then what else we can do. But since now it's always there, so we have now some research going on the farm, for example with the ÖMKI, with the Organic Research Institute. We have some education like the PDC, the association PDC, we host 1 weekend, so that happens. But from the beginning, we had a very strong consideration that on the first stage, we want to be a real farm, who is really living off what we are producing. Because there are so many examples internationally where a farm, which were operating as a commercial farm, they started to do demonstration, education, etc. And then somehow they shifted and then ended up like a demonstration farm without real production. And that's okay, that's fair enough. for me that's fine, but it's not my cup of tea. So what I want to do is that if someone comes to our farm, we can really show that in the practice we do some, so how we do the commercial farming, and then this is only added layers, education, research, or whatever other things. We have a little bit of income, but from these things, but to understand it or to show you, it's less than 5% of the annual income, or turnover, or how to.
May I ask you what kind of model do you have when it comes to customers? Are you part of CSA or CSA model? Thank you.
It's a community supported agriculture scheme, and I really recommend to use that. And it's interesting that in Hungary now it's really like boosting. Like there are more than 30 farms which are operating with CSA model, and there was one big jump 2 years ago when like there was a course by one NGO, and that time we were like 15, 20, and then after 1 year, like 10 newcomers came, and there was a little bit of, you know, what will happen now, because of course these are all like located around the bigger cities. But it's okay, so everyone can still operate. And so if someone stops now in Hungary, the CSA model, it's not because of they cannot find members, or so it's rather what burnout or whatever. Okay, I think time's up. Thank you.